האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov, good evening, Dover Bietcher. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parshas Trumah. We're going to do Os Zion, section 7. And tonight's learning is dedicated to a refuah shlema, for Malya Gittel Bas Rachel, and also Libodel ben Chaim L'chaim, for Lezecher Nishmas Gershon David ben Avraham Eliezer. We're going to take a look at the first few psukim from our Parsha, from Parshas Trumah, before we begin. Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. And Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to bnei Yisrael, v'yikhu li terumah, and they should take for me a donation. Me'ez kol ish asher yidvenu libo, from every person whose heart inspires him to make a donation, tikhu es trumasi, you should take my donations. Vizos hateruma asher tikhu meitam, and this is the donation that you should take from them. Zohav v'chesef unachoshes, gold and silver and copper, and then the next couple of few psukim go on listing other items that Moshe was commanded to take in, to collect from Bnei Yisrael for the building of the Mishkan. So the Zera Shimshon is going to talk about an age-old, very famous, well-known question, which is why is the word Trumah, donation, used 3 times in these psukim? Wouldn't it be enough for Hashem to say, take donations from the people 1 time? Why do we have the word Trumah appearing 3 times? Why is that happening? And as we'll see, there are other questions he's going to ask as well. Let's get right into Ozion section 7. Pasuk, the Pasuk says, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to bnei Yisrael, v'yikhu li truma, and take, and they should take from me donations, v'zos ha-truma, and it also says, and this is the donations, and of course, we know that it says the word truma 3 times. Kosher, there's a question. Lama huzkaru shalosh trumos. Why do these psukim mention 3 donations, as if it's talking about 3 different types of donations? Why does it do that? V'lama pam achas amar trumasi. And how come 1 time it uses the word terumasi, my donations, from Hashem saying, these are my donations? Why is that said? And why is it only said 1 time? V'od kosher, and another question, so this is the 3rd question, pam v'yikhu ufa'am tikhu. 1 time it says, and they should take, and 1 time it says, you should take. So the Zera Shimshon is asking 3 questions right from the start on this very small set of psukim, because these questions jump right out at the reader. The reader, any reader would certainly see that the word truma is repeated 3 times without it being clearly explained why it's being repeated 3 times. And also a reader will notice that it says trumasi, my truma. Why is Hashem referring to this as my truma? And is he referring to all 3 types of donations as his truma, or only 1 type as his truma? And also, this might be maybe a little bit more for the careful, only for the careful or the grammatical reader. 1 time it says v'yikhu, and they should take, and 1 time it says tikhu, you should take, which of course the Torah doesn't do anything obviously by accident, so there must be a reason for that as well. So those are the 3 opening questions in this section. Next paragraph, v'yesh lomar, and we can say de'isa b'meseches Rosh Hashanah dav vav. It states in the tractate of Rosh Hashanah on page 6, the neder unedava nechluku l'sholosh chalukos. Neder, which is a kind of vow, unedava, and a donation, can be divided into 3 categories. There are 3 types of things that are included under the overall subject heading of neders, nedarim, and nedavos. Vows or promises and donations. Chad nedava, One type is called a nadava. We translate it as a donation. V'imeso nigdav eno chayav biachriyuso. So one of the three types is where a person makes a nadava. He says he commits himself or herself, a man or a woman commits himself or herself to give a donation for a specific purpose. Let's imagine it's a nadava, it's a donation to the Beis Hamikdash, to the temple. In this case, it's the Mishkan. But let's imagine we're talking in general terms later on. So a person says that they're going to make a nadava, a donation to the Beis Hamikdash. So they become obligated to give that thing that they said they would donate. That could be money, that could be gold or silver, that could be a specific kli, a specific utensil or article, that could be an animal to be used as a sacrifice. But whatever they say, in such a case, if they use the terminology, if they use the word nadava, that means they're only making they're only obligated to donate that specific item or animal. And if that item or animal is lost or destroyed or the animal dies, then they are not obligated to bring a replacement. They have no obligation beyond the specific object or animal that they are committing to donate. If it becomes lost or stolen, or dies, if the animal dies, then that's it. That's the end of their commitment. V'chad neder, and then another category is a type of neder. We're going to see that there are two types of nedarim, which will give us category 2 and category 3. So category 2 is a type of neder, v'chagon de amar. For example, if a person says harei alai ola, a person says that they are obligated to bring a burnt offering, al menas she'ein ani chayav biachriyuso, but on the condition that I am not obligated to replace it if something happens to it. Didami l'nedava, in which case this category 2, is similar to the first category of nedava. This is a neder. He's using a different type of wording and a different type of category, but in practical terms, it's the same law in terms of whether or not you need to replace it, because the person says, I'm taking this obligation upon myself to bring a type of offering on the condition that I'm not obligated to replace it if it dies or something happens to it, or if it's stolen. Then he's not obligated to replace it. And so therefore, it's just like the first category of a nedava, where if something happens to the object or the animal, the donor is not obligated to replace it. V'chad neder gomor. And the third category is the category of a complete neder, a full-fledged, bona fide neder, shechayev b'sashlumin, in which case a person is obligated to pay for it if something happens to it. So if a person uses that language of harei alai ola, the person accepts upon himself or herself to bring an offering. In this case, an ola is a burnt offering, a completely burnt offering, but it could be any kind of korban. And the person says, I'm accepting upon myself to do that, and doesn't make the condition that the person is not responsible to replace it if something happens to it. If they don't add that additional language, then they are in fact obligated to replace it if the animal dies or if the animal is stolen, and that would be a different law than the first two categories. So let's just quickly recap what we have. If a person's not familiar with this Gemara and Rosh Hashanah, or they're not familiar with the ideas of neder and nedava, let's just quickly recap. So the Zera Shimshon teaches us there are three basic categories. The first is called nedava, which is where a person obligates himself or herself to donate a specific item, for example, to the temple, to the Beis Hamikdash. And that type of nedava, it's called a donation, it only applies to that specific object or that specific animal. If something happens to the object or the animal, the person has no further responsibility. Then there's a category 2 is a neder, in which the person adds language that says, I'm taking upon myself an obligation to bring something to the Beis Hamikdash, for example, but on the condition that I'm not obligated to replace it if something happens to it. So he's using a different language of commitment, which is called a neder type of commitment. But because he specifically stipulates that he's not responsible to replace it, then just like a nedava, he is not responsible to replace it if something happens to it. Then we get to the third category, which is a neder gomer, a real neder, in which a person makes a complete commitment to bring a certain donation or animal to the Beis HaMikdash and doesn't add any modifying language to make him not responsible to replace it. So in that case, if something happens to the specific animal or object he was referring to, he has to then replace it with a similar object or animal because the commitment is on him. It's not on the object. He or she has a commitment that he or she needs to fulfill. So those are the three categories. Now, before we get into the next paragraph, in order to understand what the Zera Shimshon is going to say about our psukim and how he's going to explain them to us, we need to realize that those three categories only apply once a person makes some kind of commitment to donate something. Before a person makes a commitment at all, before a person says anything about a neder or a nedava or any kind of commitment to donate something, then that's a fourth category. That's pre-commitment. And you'll see the Zera Shimshon is going to talk about, address the pre-commitment status of an individual. And he's going to say that one of the psukim is actually referring to a person before he makes a commitment. And so the Zera Shimshon lists three categories that all apply after a person makes either a neder, a nedava commitment or a neder commitment or a complete full-fledged neder commitment. Those are the three categories. But the category that comes before those three is a person, applies to a person, refers to a person who has not yet made any commitment, in which case, of course, they have no responsibility. And we'll see now shortly why that's important to realize. Next paragraph. Uvazeh yuvan hapasuk. And now we can understand the pasuk where it says, "V'yikhu li terumah," and they should take for me a donation. Medaber al hanedava. This is talking about a donation that is a nedava. The Omar, and it says, "V'yikhu," they should take it. Ratzalomar kiritzonam. It means to say that the person, the potential donor, the volunteer who wants to give something to the Mishkan, they should choose what they want to give, and they're only obligated to give exactly what they choose. Because when you're dealing with a nedava, Bezdin can't force a person to give a nedava. Bezdin wasn't able to go to people and say, oh, that's a nice piece of gold, or that's a nice purple cloth, or that's a nice container of olive oil. We force you to, we're taking that against your will to be used in the Mishkan. These were donations. These were voluntary donations. So when the first pasuk and the Parsha starts off and it says, V'yikhu li Trumah, that Moshe, you should speak to Bnei Yisrael and they will take donations for me, that's referring to people who haven't yet made a commitment, and it's totally up to them to decide what they would like to give to the Mishkan. It's not up to anyone to come take anything from them. And if in fact the Bezdin or anyone else is not allowed to take anything from them, because they get to choose what they would like to donate. Ve'achar zeh omar, and after this it says, Me'es kol ish asher yidvenu libo tikhu es trumasi. From every person whose heart motivates him to give, to donate, you should take my donation. Tikhu, you should take trumasi, my donation. Hashem is the my. Hashem is the one talking to Moshe, of course. So you should take my donation. This is referring to a person after he has made a donation and has specifically said that he is accepting upon himself the obligation to donate a specific object to the Mishkan. So some gold, some silver, some whatever the other categories are that were needed to build the Mishkan. Once a person makes the commitment, then that's a nedava, and the Bezdin is allowed to come and take that object because the person made the nedava. It's not like the first scenario where the person was choosing what he or she was going to donate and hadn't yet made a commitment, in which case no one can get involved to say, we're taking this or that. But now, once the person commits, for example, and says, I'm donating this silver vase to the Mishkan because I heard they need silver, okay, that's it. The Bezdin can come if the person delays his or her gift and say, is this the vase right here, the one you donated? You made a commitment to donate? Yes, it is. Okay, we're going to take that because we need it. We've started the work, and they made a commitment to donate it. There's no way out of that commitment. Inami, alternatively, al misha omar, hare alai ola al manas v'chule. Or this actually could refer to this pasuk could refer to the second category that the Zera Shimshon discussed, which is where a person uses the language of a neder but adds the conditional statement. And as he explained, that means that they have to give the specific object or animal, but if it's lost, stolen, or animal dies, then they have no further responsibility, and it's just like a nedava. That's a type of neder. It's a conditional neder that is just like a nedava, and that's what this pasuk, that's what this phrase is referring to, where it says, tikhu, you should take. The Bezdin can in fact come and take items that the person committed to donate, either from category 1, nedava, or category 2, conditional nedarim. And they have to, the Bezdin can take it, the specific item. V'sikhu inyono lahazir levezdin, and the word you should take is in order to make the Bezdin careful, sheyichpuhu lahavi ba'odo sholem, that they are allowed to go and confiscate the object as long as it is whole, as long as it is intact. Right? In the case of the silver vase, you come to the house and you say, we heard that you committed to donate this silver vase to the building of the Mishkan, and we need the silver now. Please show us where it is, and we're going to take it. And the person can't refuse because he or she made the nedava or the conditional neder, as long as it's intact. If it's been stolen and it's not there, they can't say, give us another vase as a replacement, or give us silver coins, or give us anything if it has disappeared. V'lo imeso nevad, and it doesn't apply if the animal has died or been lost, or the object has been stolen or lost. The hapoter hu mitashlumin, because in those two first case types of commitments, a person is exempt from any kind of replacement payment. V'lochein omar trumosi, and that's also why it says the word my truma, dafka trumosi. Hashem is saying, only take my donation, meaning the specific thing that the person donated to me, v'lo timuraso, and don't take anything in exchange of that object or animal, delo nischayev ba, because the person is not obligated in those first two types of commitment levels. Person is not obligated to give something in place of the original item that they committed to give. And so that's why it says trumasi, take my donation, meaning the donation that the person specifically said they would give to the Mishkan. That's what you can take. If it's not there, if it's something happened to it, it disappeared, it's gone, you don't take anything else. Next paragraph. Va'achar zeh, and after those two scenarios are covered, medaber al neder dechayev biachriyu. So the Torah then addresses the case where a person makes a neder gomor, a full-fledged neder, full-fledged vow, in which case the person is obligated to replace the object if it is stolen or lost or destroyed or something happens to it. The his here levezdin, and the pasuk is warning or alerting the bezdin lechposo to force the person to make a donation. that they committed to using the language of neder gomer, a full-fledged neder, v'lachein omar v'zos hatruma. And that's why it uses the language of, and this is the donation, meaning when a person makes the full-fledged donation, afilu im nevad chayiv, even if the object is lost or stolen or an animal dies, they're obligated to replace it, v'lachein omar tikhu. And that's why, once again, it says you should take, because in such a case, in such a scenario, in that third category of neder gomer, full-fledged neder, then a person, the Bezdin, can come and not only take the specific object, but take a replacement if the specific object is no longer intact or no longer available or no longer present. Then the Bezdin is tikhu completely. Go and take and insist that the donor give you the original object, or that he made the neder gomer about, or a replacement, because that's the halacha in that situation. So the Zera Shimshon again addresses and deals with the very famous and well-known issue of the fact that the word Trumah is repeated 3 times. And he also addresses the fact that the other words, that there are other words that change here, yikhu or tikhu and trumasi, and he shows how each of these psukim and phrases is talking about one of the different types of commitment that a person can make, whether it's before they've made any commitment, in which case all the cards are in their hands and they get to decide what they wish to donate and how they wish to donate it, or it's one of the 3 categories specifically talked about in the Gemara and Rosh Hashanah, the nedava, the neder with a condition, or the unconditional neder gomer, and each of those are addressed in the psukim, and that's why the psukim uses different language, because it's talking about different types of scenarios and different types of commitments. Yasher koach for joining in the learning of the Zera Shimshon this week. We look forward to learning again together, God willing, in the Zera Shimshon on next week's Parsha.